how artificial intelligence is changing the role of doctors. I help organizations understand the implications of artificial intelligence and things like machine learning on their industry, on their businesses. And I believe one area that is ripe for transformation and is a clear priority for many companies, like in the UK, the national AI strategy focuses on healthcare. So doctors and healthcare is a key priority where artificial intelligence can actually help us improve the service and save money. And if you think about this, how the whole education of doctors is happening at the moment. We send someone to medical school for 7 years and then hope that they remember a fraction of what they have learned. So if they retain 20%, 30%, that's a bonus. They then start practicing after 7 years. They then get some experience and hopefully they get to know lots of common problems people have. If you then go to your doctor, you are usually assigned something like a 10-minute time slot. And what usually happens is you sit down, the doctor looks at a screen while you're explaining what your issue is. And while you're doing this, the doctor will read through the notes, trying to figure out when you were last here, what your issues were. And then if you think about this, for this doctor then to diagnose you within those 10 minutes is really unrealistic. Unless you have something like a code or something really common. Usually you end up with some sort of prescription and then you go away and you just do a bit of trial and error. And if this didn't work, you then come back and then maybe you do some more tests. I believe AI can help with all of this because if you think about this, you can train a computer with all the medical knowledge in the world. So you don't have to rely on them just losing 70% of what they've learned, they will retain 100%. The other challenge is that there's so much new research being developed every single day. So even if you're a specialist in one area, you can't keep up with your specialist area, let alone with all the new medical knowledge that is being developed. Again, take a computer. This computer can be fed all medical knowledge in the world. So suddenly you have a computer that knows everything about medicine and is up to date. You think, okay, how can a doctor compete with that? The other thing is that IBM, for example, is working on a system based on their Watson cognitive computing platform that has all of this medical knowledge in it. And it also has a computing interface or a natural language interface. So you can speak to it and you can describe your symptoms. And if you want to talk to the system for 3 days, you can do that. And it will never forget all your medical history. And you can even give it your genetic fingerprint and you can give it all your family history. And suddenly you have a computer there that knows everything about medicine, knows everything about you. And you think, who would I trust more to make an accurate diagnosis? My doctor that looked just through my notes for 5 minutes to then speak to me, or a system that knows everything about me and has all the medical knowledge? And I believe this ability of computers now to diagnose diseases will transform medicine. A good example is radiology. So if someone looks at an X-ray scan, what we've seen is that computers are getting so good at this now, so they can interpret these scans. Instead of having a human being looking through lots of X-ray images to, let's say this is a cancer doctor, an oncologist who is looking at scans to identify tumors. This is actually quite a tough job for human beings because as human beings, we sometimes are tired, we just had an argument with our partner, we don't feel well, and we look through one scan after the other to identify patterns that seem to look like a tumor. And then if we identify them, humans are very good to then say this is possibly a tumor or not. Now enter AI and machine learning. we now have computer vision and the ability of machines to interpret those scans. So we can train them on millions and millions of scans that identify cancer and non-cancerous cells. So these computers are becoming extremely good at it. And there was a competition recently where a computer outperformed human radiologists. And this is what computers do. They are fantastically good at pattern recognition. So why would you want a human to look at a scan? Actually, there is a reason. And this is why I think we will augment the role of doctors and medics in this field, because what computers are good at is they will never miss anything that might look dangerous on your scan. But what a doctor can do is they can differentiate between something that looks abnormal and something that might be potentially cancerous. So what now happens is you share. So the radiologist no longer has to look through one scan after the other to identify patterns, because this is the job you give to computers. The computer then gives the scan that highlights any unusual patterns to the radiologist, and they then make a judgment and a diagnosis. And by combining computers and people, it hopefully makes the job of the radiologist more interesting, but you get better results. So the scans will never miss anything, and the human interpretations are usually better, at least at this stage, than the computer-generated ones, because they quite often over-diagnose. And this, for me, is one field that I do a lot of work in, lots of talks at the moment on AI in healthcare. I also have a huge library of articles and more videos on my website and on my YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to, on healthcare and how technology is currently transforming healthcare. So hopefully you will find something else that you find interesting.